Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about a topic, and that is, and this is almost a metaphor for all training, and that metaphor is going to be doing heavy presses does not make front raises useless or redundant. And people need to understand that when it comes to certain isolation work and smaller exercises. Too many people have gotten this idea from the minimalist world that these movements become useless if you already do a big exercise that hits a muscle, and nothing could be further from the truth. Now, that being said, does it mean people can't get pretty decent results doing big compound movements only? Of course they can. Of course they can. Of course they can. Why? Because they're big movements that work a lot of muscles. And they're efficient. They're efficient use of your time. At least in theory, they're efficient use. But how do I put this? In the amount of time that I can do a 12-set shoulder workout, right? I can probably get a full deadlift or squat workout done. You know what I mean? Because when you start ramping up on these big movements, let's say you're going to do multiple sets of deadlifts or multiple sets of squats. How long are you taking between those? So on this efficiency point, I do want to raise that point. Come on. Like seriously, look, when I ramp up to do a 505 squat like that, and then if I do some back off work, man, that could be 30 minutes of squatting. Really for just a few work sets, honestly. Okay, because it's so taxing on a set for set basis. Now, because I did the squats, does that mean I shouldn't ever do any leg extensions like I'm doing here? Those are done in the same workout. You know what I mean, guys? So do we just not do them? But when you look at it from that perspective, yeah, it's efficient in terms of total number of sets, but it's not that time efficient, really. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Now, could a person come in and do only 6 exercises and get some pretty dang good results? Of course they could. Of course they could. Yeah. You could come in and do 2 big exercises for 3 or 4 sets twice a week. 3 days a week total. All different movements. You get pretty good results. I mean, people have done that. Look at the lean gain system. People got pretty decent results because look at the exercises they pick. Squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, chins. Okay? And people see that and go, aha, but people got decent results. But that's not what Martin told you just to do. He still had people isolate a few things. Keep that in mind. Yeah, he had people come in to do 2 big exercises, but it's usually like do some calves or some triceps or some biceps or some extra rows on all those days. Because they're fast, they can be done really quick. And I think people need to understand how fast you can do isolation work. I get it if you're trying to do heavy curls. You're doing some heavy cheek curls with a heavy weight. Okay, you might need 30 minutes between sets. But what if you're doing really strict curls? What if you're doing strict lateral raises? What if you're doing front raises? That stuff's really fast. So we do need to be clear on that with this whole efficiency. Your big movements, they're definitely tons more muscle on a set per set basis than the smaller movements. I don't think anyone denies that, right? I mean, you're going to do a squat. I mean, how long would it take you to do both leg extensions and glute bridges? Yeah, it would definitely take quite a bit of time potentially. It's faster to do some squats. But that's because you're doing other big movements. The isolation stuff doesn't take that long. Really doesn't. Really doesn't take that long. And we all know that. Now, big movements work. Can chin-ups help with biceps? Of course they can. Does bench press help build triceps? Of course it does. Overhead press help with front delts? Sure it does. They build these things, obviously. Is it going to be maximum development? Not always. In fact, research even says otherwise. Right, look at the data on the bench press. It works the lateral head amazingly well. Okay? Doesn't work the long head that well. I mean, this is even in novice lifters when that's been studied. Long head doesn't grow a ton from the bench press. It grows. It'll grow over twice as fast from an extension. And that's been found in the lab. Of course it does. So when we start looking at a lot of these other movements, we don't say, well, we would never curl because we do chins. Well, you're going to have small biceps. That left me with small biceps for years. Still playing catch up. I thought, oh, I can do weighted chins with 100 pounds. I'm good. You got amazing bicep genetics, maybe. I don't. So in that context, it does make sense to do these smaller movements. But the other thing is, you can only get so much of these big exercises in. They will fatigue us. We can only handle so much volume of the big barbell movements. You don't do so much squatting or so much overhead pressing with a bar. What happens if you want more tension on those muscles? Or what happens if certain heads of the muscles are getting underactivated? There will be muscle fibers in that muscle. The isolation movement will hit that the compound doesn't. Okay? Let me be clear. Look, I love deadlifts, but a leg curl is going to work parts of the hamstring that the deadlift misses. All right? I could make the case that the front raise itself may work parts of the delt and shoulder that no press is fully hitting. Even though they all work the front delts and it's a front delt dominant exercise. Definitely not replacing laterals or upright rows for side delts with any of those big movements. Okay? You're not going to have shoulders if you do. So again, be aware of this. Think in these terms. And keeping in mind, it is really easy to throw in and train and get a serious pump on these smaller movements. So like the shoulder stuff, I mean, if you do a minute rest between and you wanted to knock out at the end of a workout, 3 sets of front raises, 3 sets of lateral raises, 3 sets of rear delt raises, you could do that in like 10 minutes. You could do them to failure with light weights. 10 minutes, you could be done. That's like 9 sets. 9 sets of high rep burn for your entire shoulder. And you'll work all 3 heads of the delt and the traps. And all those exercises hit multiple heads. You can do that in 10 to 12 minutes if you really push the limits on rest times. That's the same amount of time it takes to come in and do a little bit of warm-up and probably do 3 heavy sets of overhead pressing. Because we all know if you're going heavy, you're taking at least 3 minutes between those sets. All right, so you see where we're going with this? Let's not pretend this is redundant. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. And I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.